Welcome, Tiny Hands, Big Dreams, here on our off-grid homestead in southern Ecuador. We're going to talk about it's not cheaper. No, it's not.
So we recently put up a video about our solar, and we've gotten a lot of comments on that and other things about, in that particular case, if power is so cheap in Ecuador, why are you off-grid? Why are you doing solar? Knowing that setting up a solar system is not cheap.
Yeah.
And it sort of spurred an interesting conversation between us.
And people just can't but this is cheaper. Why would you not do it this way? And those conversations have devolved. No, it is not cheaper. Period. What's our payback on the solar? If it all stays working and doesn't need repaired, and I don't include any of my labor to check on it for the whole time, and I don't actually include any of the installation, 20 years. Does that make any sense? No.
Not if you're looking at it purely financially. Now, anything self-sustainable, homesteading, farming, off-grid, at least for the first many years, you are not realistically going to be saving money.
You're going to put a ton of your time and money into establishing the systems that will one day pay off at least somewhat equal to what you might be able to buy things for elsewhere.
And some of it still won't.
So solar in the U.S., there was, besides the government injecting money is like bonuses for things, or some of the rebates through power companies, which a lot of them are stopping. Like, if you just looked at it of, I could have power from the city, or I could have power on my own, and it was typically the numbers ran like 7 years, plus or minus. There's a lot of different cases. Don't tell me I'm wrong, and yours is slightly different. I get it. But that was kind of the normal. Now, that's it at U.S. pricing. If you had to pay for power to be run to your land, you bought some little cabin somewhere in the mountains, and you get this quote for the next 3 miles for the power lines to get in, and you're like, oh, $87,000 for them to run the power to your little cabin. Solar looks pretty darn good, let me tell you right there. Purely on a cost basis, if you're only looking at cost. Currently, Ecuador is having fairly widespread, massive rolling blackouts because the weather patterns shifted. There was an El Nino effect. Last year, it was mad rain all year. Like, we didn't really get a lot of our dry season, messed with a lot of farming. And now it's sort of flipped, and all the places where they have hydroelectric, because it's pretty much all hydro in Ecuador. That's the mainstay of the power, which is great. But the water didn't fall where the water needed to fall to get to the hydroelectric dams. So if there's not the water, which is the power stored in the dam, you can't provide the power. So they're simply turning off power to places for 4, 6, 8 hours in some cases every day. And I'm getting calls from a lot of friends and people I know that are like, hey, how do I go off grid? Like tomorrow.
Which is a whole other subject of, man, you should have started that a while ago.
That's like the grocery store being out of food and be like, I have to grow all my food because we couldn't buy anything today. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry, you needed to back that up.
But as far as the whys that we or other people choose this life, it's not money. It's not saving money. It's never been about saving money.
No, we had to front load the crap out of buying all of the parts and things.
Yeah, so you want to grow food, well, you're going to have to buy things, whether you're buying plants, seedlings, seeds, you're buying compost, sure, you can make your own. You're still going to need some amount of monetary input.
You're building raised beds.
There's going to be something. And trust me,
fertilizer.
We have done it as cheap as possible here. And it hasn't been wildly successful because we didn't have the money to put into it, which is sort of the other thing there. That the more money you put into it, usually the better off you are.
You can shorten your time frame down. We got compost up there. It's slow rolling along. Yeah. It has many months to go.
But when I look at how much, if you also include labor, how much we have put into just what we've done so far here, we could have just been going to the market and buying food for far cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the point.
So, it's just motivation. What is our motivation? And I remember I had a boat many years ago with a friend. We shared it, and we figured out one day, after catching no fish again, which was fairly common for us. We weren't great at it. Occasionally catch something. We figured out how much. No, it was the one day we did catch a fish, like a fish between us. How much that fish cost us per pound. So this trip, the gas to tow the boat, the thing, the rods, the bait, the something. We had to buy lunch. There's this, something else. We had to buy some new lures, fishing line, something. Percentage of the boat, percentage of this, yearly fees, insurances, registration, something. I think we ended up with like $1,900 a pound total over our lifetime of owning a boat and catching fish. We could have just not and bought fish.
But was the fish your goal?
Is the fish your goal?
Yeah.
So, massive rolling blackouts everywhere. We found out it because people called me telling me that their power is out and they need to go off grid. And I'm like, my lights are on. Oh, everything's dandy just where we are. Having a great day. I'm sorry.
The local neighborhood will be without water because their water system has failed and they have to get out all of the official engineers to go fix it. If our water has a problem because it's been incredibly rainy for a day and a night and another day and something, we should go up and fix it.
Big strong man, go and fix the water. Yes, dear. And I hike up our little hill to our water system, and I'm like, oh, there's mud, and there's things, there's stuff, and I take it, and I shovel it out, and in 20 minutes, I'm done, and we have water again for some amount of time. We are responsible for our own well-being. Our power stays on, our water stays on, our things are something. We take care of that. That's the way we want it. We are able to then be responsible and control our own existence. Mm-hmm. We like that. Mm-hmm. Man, just looking at their faces when the neighbors were down the road just standing around, like their houses haven't had water for a couple days. Yep. No bathing, cooking's a thing. You can't wash your dishes. They're on like emergency rations of carrying jugs of water from somewhere. Yep. And they're not allowed to fix it.
No, and that's what a lot of it gets down to specifically with the off-grid things. If your power goes out, your power goes out. You can't do anything about it. Like, I remember I used to live in the States, out not in a city, and when we had the power go out, we were like the last on the list to go get fixed. That's just the reality, and it would be
population centers, suburbs, things. Yeah. Oh, out county there, are you?
Okay, well, we'll get to you later.
How's your freezer? Did your meat thawing out?
Yeah.
So, and this is the midst of we just processed some of our pigs. And we were mad like the freezer and the fridge did not turn off for days trying to cool all that. It didn't honestly
even occur to me until later that if we had not been off-grid and we had been beholden to the larger power grid, that would have been terrible for us.
Yeah, and sometimes the power cuts are in the middle of the night. So it's not like you could even just run out and start the generator.
You might not even know.
You don't even know. It would have been...
Yeah.
Either it could have been terrifying, we could have had meat that did not chill, which could have gone bad. Yep. Or we're just up 24/7 checking on it.
Yeah.
And switching to a generator. Which not everybody has. And is loud and terrible and just a disaster. My solar panels.
Silent.
Yeah, I hear birds, I hear some wind. I really enjoy them.
They are not obtrusive to our view. All those things. And as far as the rest of the self-sustainable, self-sufficient world goes, the food. We're like, well, why would you raise your own animals, grow your own food? You can just buy it. Now, some places, like the U.S., those food prices have skyrocketed. But so has the animal food prices. So when I watch people I know, like in the U.S. and Canada, I'm like, wow, I still don't think you're actually paying more to raise your animals, more than you were before to raise your animals, because the food prices have gone up. So there's a lot of decisions people have made, but they continue to make the choice to raise and grow their own food, not because it's cheaper. In fact, it's oftentimes more expensive and far more work.
If you don't have a whole bunch of land with which you could grow excess food easily for your animals, which you had to spend money on said land, so you can't not include that cost. If you happen to have that land, then you could make it somewhat competitive. You put a cow out in a pasture and it eats.
Unless you also live somewhere where you only get, 5 or 6 months out of the year, you can do that. And then you're even more...
Now you needed triple the land to grow the extra, to put it away, and a barn, pay for the barn.
Oh yeah, there's lots of expenses.
There's lots of expenses.
And,
but when you taste, I grew up, my great-grandmother always had a garden, swore by it, grew up on a farm, always had fresh tomatoes sitting there, and sometimes that was lunch. And it was one of her fresh beefsteak tomatoes, simply cut up in a bowl with some Italian dressing. I remember the taste of them to this day. They were incredible. Have I ever bought a tomato like that in a grocery store? No. No, I have not. You have to grow your own. If you want that level of experience, of flavor, of
freshness,
you have to do it yourself. There's no way to get certain things in a purchased format. You're just farther from the source than is possible for that.
Mm-hmm. And you also lose any of that control and responsibility for how it was grown. Was it sprayed with something? Was the animal fed something that was sprayed with something? You start losing that the further you get away from the source.
Was it an E. coli incident? Is there a recall for your salad that you got in a bag? Happens all the time. We, have our best practices things. Certain animals don't go in certain patches, things, something,
Mm-hmm.
because we know that's like to maintain, cleanliness. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
processes, and we are responsible for our own, and it works out. The pork that we have is really, really good.
It's fantastic, and I have zero concerns about the safety of the end product, because I did every single part of it. I know how the animals were raised. I know how they were processed. I know everything about it.
We know there was no health issues with them.
The meat was handled correctly.
It was temperature controlled properly.
Yep.
There wasn't any contamination during slaughtering, which is very common because they're doing it very rapid. We do it slowly.
Yeah.
It takes time. We spend a few hours. The results are impeccable. That is our choice.
Yeah. That's our motivation.
That's our motivation. So it is our motivation. And there's a lot of other people that choose this life as well. It is under their own, it's in their wheelhouse to control the things that are important in their life. When we didn't have this ability, we at least had a giant freezer. And we were able to pack our giant freezer. And when the grocery stores ran out of things, there's no meat. We're good for months.
Yeah.
As a small level of preparedness, of taking care of our own.
But I think it's just something, either from the outside looking in, or if you are starting out wanting to be off-grid, wanting to homestead, aiming towards self-sufficiency, don't expect to save money. You're not going to save money, at least not for a long time.
You're going to spend a lot of your time. You're going to give up on things like a couch.
Well, maybe one day we'll have a couch again.
One day we'll have a couch again. But at first, you're going to have to front load the entire experience with your own
blood, sweat, and tears.
Labor of love.
Oh, okay.
Labor of love.
Yeah. Depending on the
and
day.
then there can even be other factors, like we could have gotten power to our property for free.
They showed up at the bottom of our driveway one day and asked me
we're gonna
translate through.
We're gonna run power all the way up the road to your house.
And I'm like, no, thank you. I don't want that.
They thought they weren't translating it right.
And I'm like, no, I don't want that.
So those would have been I'm not sure the exact kilovolt, but they were the high kilovolt lines. Maybe it was 11 kilovolt or something, and they would have run the big steel posties all the way up, right bisecting our property, which is the road, and then I don't know how much further. But that one means that we now have power lines right in our main view out, which is behind you. Two, then we also have the health aspects of being close to the power lines, the noise, sometimes they buzz. We didn't want any of that. We really enjoy our solar. It's quiet, it's low voltage, we really like it. So there's other motivations as well. You can have your own motivations for it. But a lot of people really just fixate, well, it's not cheaper. And that's it. That's the entire thing they see.
And there's a much bigger picture.
There is a much bigger picture. So
that's all.
That's it.
That's it.
If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, like it, share it with others. We do these every so often. We try to bring interesting conversations to you and talk about things that are important to us with our perspective. All right. See you for the next one.